Hello to all our faithful viewers, and welcome back to Secrets Behind the Stars. I'm genuinely thrilled you're here, because today's conversation has the entire fandom holding its breath. What we're about to unpack circles around two names that have defined an era of Turkish television charisma, Akın Akinozu and Ebru Şahin. The energy is electric, the buzz is everywhere, and the whispers are getting louder. Buckle up, because this one is delicate, layered, and impossible to ignore. Before we dive in, a quick reminder: if you enjoy getting thoughtful, responsible breakdowns of the stories everyone else is shouting about, tap subscribe and turn on notifications for Secrets Behind the Stars. You'll never miss our exclusives or our careful commentary. Now, let's get into it. The conversation sweeping social feeds and showbiz circles right now centers on Akın Akinozu and Ebru Şahin, a duo whose on-screen chemistry turned into a cultural moment and whose influence travels far beyond borders. Fans adore them, the industry respects them, and every move they make becomes headline fuel. Which is why the current chatter feels so intense. Across timelines, blogs, and comment sections, there's talk of a massive legal storm forming in the distance. Some posts frame it as a multi-million-dollar dispute. Others suggest we're watching a story that could unearth deeply guarded information. Let's be crystal clear from the start: no official filings have been made public, and there is no verified statement from either Akın Akinozu or Ebru Şahin confirming any of these claims. We are looking at a wave of speculation. What we can do is examine why this conversation exists, what it could mean if it were ever substantiated, and how high-profile figures navigate a moment when the internet decides to write a script before the credits even roll. The part that has inflamed curiosity is the word everyone keeps repeating: secrets. That single term sits like a spark near dry grass. The suggestion is that behind-the-scenes matters, private agreements, professional decisions, personal boundaries, might be pulled into the public square if a legal conflict were to become formal. Is this about money? Is it about creative ownership? Is it about reputation? Those are the questions being asked. But again, we are discussing possibilities and public chatter, not confirmed facts. The difference matters. Where did the noise begin? It's difficult to pinpoint. One day it was a handful of speculative posts, the next it was being discussed as if it had already happened. That's the online machine at work. The mere idea of a dispute involving two beloved figures invites a storm of theories, some measured, others reckless. Our responsibility is to sift through the sentiment without amplifying claims that aren't anchored by evidence. So, think of what follows as a map of potential terrain rather than a declaration that any one path is real. To appreciate why this is headline-worthy, we have to remember who we're talking about. Akın Akinozu built a global audience with a riveting intensity on screen, pairing striking presence with emotional nuance. Ebru Şahin, similarly, earned admiration for her range, grace, and the strength she brings to every role. Together, they helped craft moments that audiences replay again and again. They're also professionals who've collaborated with major production houses and fronted campaigns that carry serious commercial weight. Those elements are key context for understanding why even the rumor of a dispute carries real consequences. Behind that glamour is a labyrinth of contracts, rights, likeness agreements, sponsorship obligations, schedules, and expectations. This is true for every high-profile actor, and it's especially true for those who work at the center of widely syndicated hits. When the word lawsuit appears, people assume it's about money, but often it's about clarity. Who controls creative material, how information is shared, what promises were made, and whether anyone believes those promises weren't kept. None of that says anything specific about Akın Akinozu or Ebru Şahin themselves. It just explains why an industry rumor gains traction so quickly. The sums being tossed around online are, predictably, dramatic. Multi-million this, staggering that. The bigger the number, the more powerful the click. In reality, sums in legal conflicts depend on contracts, jurisdiction, and alleged damages, things you can't guess at from a headline. If such a case existed, it would be dealt with by patient lawyers and guarded documents, not by anonymous posts. Until anything is filed, unsealed, and confirmed, numbers are storytelling devices, not facts. Another factor ramping up tension is confidentiality. Legal matters often live behind closed doors until a court says otherwise. Even when disputes are real, parties try to keep sensitive details locked away. That creates a vacuum, and vacuums online get filled with imagination. You'll see 1,000 threads claiming insider knowledge, but without substantiation, they're just threads. If there were actual proceedings, the paper trail would eventually show up in official records. Until then, restraint is essential. The narrative many are constructing asks whether any supposed revelations would be personal or professional. Fans worry that anything framed as a secret risks invading boundaries that should never be crossed. They also know that creative partnerships and brand deals include clauses about disclosure and conduct, so a leak, real or invented, can have ripple effects. What complicates everything is that Akın and Ebru project a mix of vulnerability and strength that makes audiences feel protective. People don't just watch them, they root for them. Another layer of speculation concerns the identity of any party who might be involved in a hypothetical filing. Is it a producer? A distributor? A former collaborator who feels sidelined? In the absence of documentation, these are just questions floating in the air. Different corners of the internet propose different suspects, often based on little more than guesswork. If there's a lesson in that, it's that names should not be thrown around lightly. Because when you name someone without proof, you don't just risk being wrong, you risk doing harm. As for the types of conflicts that do appear in entertainment law, there are a few usual suspects: breach of contract, misinterpretation of terms, disagreements over creative control, disputes over international sales, and the handling of confidential material. Each of those issues can involve substantial stakes. And each requires careful negotiation to fix. None of them inherently imply wrongdoing or scandal, they're sometimes just signs of fast-moving careers colliding with complex paperwork. The public image element can be the harshest part. The moment a rumor swells, the narrative threatens to run away from the people at the center of it. This is where crisis communication matters. Good teams balance transparency with privacy, correct the record when needed, and refuse to fuel a fire when silence is the wiser path. If Akın and Ebru confront a wave of speculation, the smartest move may be to focus on their work, keep commitments with grace, and let facts, not noise, set the timeline. There's also the human piece. The pressure of living under a spotlight can be relentless, especially when strangers speculate about your motivations, your choices, and your relationships. It helps to remember that behind the red carpets and curated posts are people who have to sleep, train, memorize lines, shake hands, sign forms, and wake up early for call times. Whether or not any legal drama exists, the mental load of constant rumor is heavy. Compassion belongs in this conversation. Zooming out, the industry impact explains why observers are alert. High-stakes collaborations create a web of interests. Studios, platforms, brands, agencies, international partners, fan events, streaming deals. If a dispute touches any thread, the whole web feels it. That's why even idle talk prompts cautious whispers in boardrooms. Everyone knows how fragile momentum can be when audiences get distracted by off-screen narratives. If a formal dispute ever did surface, it would likely unfold over months, not days. Attorneys would negotiate, statements would be crafted, and a few details might drip into the press. You might see timelines analyzed and clauses dissected by people who suddenly act like experts. In that environment, leaks can be tactical or careless. Our stance on secrets behind the stars is simple: we won't elevate unverified claims, we'll wait for documents or on-the-record statements, and we'll treat the subjects of the story with the respect they deserve. One of the biggest questions people ask is, what happens to a couple's dynamic in the middle of a media squall? There's no single answer. Some partners become a fortress, others create quiet space to breathe. Fans inevitably project hopes and fears onto public figures they admire, and Akın and Ebru inspire strong emotions because of how convincingly they've told love and resilience stories on screen. But what belongs to them privately remains theirs, no matter how loudly the crowd outside speculates. Another thread in this conversation involves sponsorships and endorsements. Brands love stability and clarity. If rumors rise, managers and PR teams proactively brief partners, reinforce trust, and keep campaigns humming. The goal is to ensure that creative work isn't overshadowed by uncertainty. That's not about spinning a tale, it's about grounding relationships in facts and keeping the focus on performance and professionalism. There's also a reminder here for all of us who consume celebrity news. Curiosity is natural, storytelling is part of how we connect. But the line between interest and intrusion is thin. When we click, comment, and share, we should ask whether we're amplifying conjecture or elevating truth. For two artists who have given audiences so many unforgettable moments, the least we can do is be careful with the stories we build around them. So where does that leave us tonight? With patience. With perspective. With the understanding that, as of now, there is no official confirmation of any lawsuit involving Akın and Ebru, no court filings publicly available, and no verified statement revealing hidden truths. There is chatter, some breathless, some sober, and an appetite for clarity. If anything changes, you'll hear it here, and you'll hear it straight, because that's our commitment. To summarize our watch, there is online noise about potential legal turbulence and possible revelations. None of it has been corroborated by primary sources. The stakes, if such a story were real, would be high because of the couple's prominence and the complex infrastructure surrounding their careers, and the only responsible path is to separate hype from evidence. Until then, the best story to follow is the one they continue to write through their work. Thank you for staying through this deep dive. Tell me what you think. Does the pace of rumor feel faster than ever, and how should public figures respond when speculation becomes the headline? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you found value in a careful, compassionate breakdown, like this video, share it, and subscribe to Secrets Behind the Stars. Keep notifications on, because when verifiable information arrives, we'll be here to unpack it with clarity and care. See you next time, with more perspective, more context, and the respect every story deserves.